Good evening and welcome to your post-match reaction after Rangers have defeated Annan 5-0, our biggest win of the season. I'll jump in there straight away. My name's Ian Mitchell and I've been joined by Hef for the game. Hef, just give me your quick summary of your thoughts and how you felt tonight went for Rangers.
Pretty routine. I thought that we had spoke about during the game that once it got to the point where it was 3-0, you were thinking, right, that's fine. But really, against a lower opposition team, we should be cracking on and getting another couple here. And to see a player get a hat-trick who hasn't really been in form of recent, having come back from injury, see young players get a run out in the squad, see some players that had to, I think they had to wipe some of the dust off some of the players to get them back onto the pitch. But no, good, exactly what you expect from cup football. Players that you hadn't seen for a while, players coming back from injury, and some players getting a wee goal. When it probably or three when they haven't been informed. So yeah, I was probably happier than I thought I was going to be coming out here on Friday night to see Rangers versus Annan.
Yes, I think a big part of that happiness might come from the new signing that was paraded pre-game. We heard some rumours and some chat and basically a hint that it was going to be announced pre-game, so we're all kind of ready up in the gantry here. But we got to see our first two new signings, which were Chukwueze and Tour, I think it is.
We'll ask him.
Ask him next time. Tour Robbins, and then it was that little bit of very sort of WWE style for me. Like, yeah. And our third new signing, Andreas Skov-Olsen, was paraded to the Ibrox crowd. Again, we're going to talk about it a lot, I'm sure, the next few months, but how exciting a signing is that?
I was buzzing because I think everybody after the week had known that it was there or thereabouts, but after the Romans transfer saga, it seemed to be like, what is it that's sticking? That's not. Why are we not getting these transfers?
Scarf over the head. You're a bit paranoid. Yeah. Something going wrong? Has he failed the medical? Have they pulled the plug? What's going on here? Yeah.
But when you see various different fan media outlets who have good contacts, and then you actually see some of the people who are their job is to be journalists, and then they're posting it, and you think, come on, it's got to be done. So. No, I was excited to see him. I'm happy that he's in the building because much like Rumens, you worry, are they going to be fit to start straight away and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I can't say whether he's fit or not from coming out in a tracksuit in the middle of the park.
But that's enough for me. Yeah.
It looked as if that he seems keen to want to get going. I mean, it's a very statement signing. People have been saying, and I agree with that. I think that idea that to bring him out, not even announce him beforehand, but just to bring him out onto the pitch, it shows that he himself believes he's a bit of a player to go along with something like that. So hopefully has a really good spell at Rangers and kicks on, and all things going well, we take that option to buy him because we really need to be making signings in that calibre of player if we're wanting to kick on. And like I'd said midweek on the podcast with JB, at the price point that he's at, if we qualify for the Champions League, that if we win the league and go straight through, that is the sort of player that can compete at the Champions League and has competed at the Champions League with comfort in the past. So yes, very, very, very happy with that signing, and also happy with the other two signings, and in some ways lets them bed themselves in a wee bit. It takes the limelight off them, and it seems like a guy who doesn't mind the limelight. So yeah.
Yeah, we did a very good podcast. I say very good. It was me that hosted it. A podcast with Scott Coyne on Thursday night, which kind of profiled both Romans and Skov-Olsen. So if you've not watched that, go and look at it. It's very good, if I do say so myself. Okay, into the game itself. We got the lineups through about an hour before. Didn't make for great reading. Again, we knew we were going to have a lot of rotation tonight. We knew there were going to be some players coming in from the cold, like you touched on at the start. But yeah, a midfield two of Dowell and Rothwell isn't exactly the most exciting. Guys like Insiala coming in, Jigga back from AFCON was in from the starting 11. Finlay Curtis, who we kind of know is on his way out on loan, gets a start. It's a team that is always going to beat Annan, but it didn't quite excite you for what you're going to watch, did it?
It didn't look like it was always going to beat Annan. The first 10 minutes, it didn't look like they were going to beat Annan. No, I think Danny Röhl made a really good point there in the press conference when he came out and said that the players hadn't played together. And I know that they obviously play at training and stuff like that, but as a team going out and competing, they didn't quite know where each of them were. It was
very rigid, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And some players you kind of forget what their qualities were. So I thought when we had initially started, it looked as if Magoma was coming inside a lot, but I don't know if that's because he's used to other players dropping out and receiving the ball there, like Raskin or Barron. So it just left gaps all over the place. Obviously, Annan then were in the position to exploit that, but the first 5-6 minutes was ropey. But to go back to the point about the starting 11, I think you're right. Is when we're playing so many games in quick succession prior to this game, you've got to let the players get a break. And knowing that tonight and Thursday night probably aren't the two games that matter the most to Rangers fans, and also probably the Rangers players, they're not focused an awful lot on Thursday, hopefully, because that's done, and we should scrap that and focus more on the league. So getting players minutes and getting some players out on the shop window in the hope that it gets them a bit more fitness so that they can crack on and get a transfer elsewhere and get off the wage books. I was happy to see that as a starting lineup, but I wasn't so happy with the bench, seeing that there was only one defender on it, because it didn't make for good reading when players did need to come off and rest themselves, and we only had John Suter there, so that was a concern initially.
Yep. Again, for me, I kind of wanted a few more younger players, but then you kind of think, oh, who else could have come in? And I try and keep an eye on the B team or the youth team, and even then, there's one or two who could have been on the bench, but the only one there was Zebedee Lawson, who got on, and we'll come to it eventually. Into the game itself, you said it yourself, the first 10 minutes were, I wouldn't say dominated by Annan in any way, but they were in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think they got an early corner or two, kind of asking a few questions. Jigga had a couple of ropey moments, as he does. But our first attack, 1-0. And that's kind of what you want this kind of night, just to not take away the fear, because I don't think we're ever worried at any point in a very arrogant way, but we weren't going to get beat tonight. So it was just a case of getting that goal and make it more comfortable. And it's quite a nice finish from Majowski. It's very like his goal at Kilmarnock, which Ken just sort of wrong foots the keeper. I think just a good finish. Just a good player with a good finish.
Yeah, and I felt Annan weren't. It feels strange to say that they had momentum, but they weren't shying away from the challenge.
Nope.
They kept.
Their fans are up for it as well.
And they clearly found a weakness in the back four that I felt like Max Harrens was second best quite a lot to their left winger and their left back overlapping, and it just meant that when they hit the ball into the box, even if their striker wasn't there, Jigga was liable for a wee slip up, and then it would have led them into the middle of the park.
Yeah, that one that he leaves as well, right in front of Liam Kelly, they just doesn't assume a guy down their backside of him, and again, that could have easily been one each.
Yeah, and I think obviously we're playing against Annan, and what I had said to you during the game was, it's okay to make some mistakes in a game like this because you're not always going to be punished for it, but they were quite hungry initially, and I felt like we didn't start the game very fresh. A lot of, obviously, legs out there that hadn't played football for a long time.
Yeah.
So to try and get them to kind of get the legs up and running again, it seemed to take a bit of time. But I felt like when that goal was scored, it kind of killed their momentum, which is exactly what it needed to do. It wasn't a particularly great strike of the ball. I just think that the keeper, as you said, he's on his wrong foot. He's trying to move across the goal to go to the other side because Majowski moves that way, and Majowski just hits the shot where he thinks he's going to take the dribble and go a bit further forward into the box. So he's caught him off guard. Do I think a better keeper gets down there and saves it? Of course, but again, that's what a striker should do. Is if they feel like the shot is on and they feel like the chance is there to be taken, then take it. And he did it against Kilmarnock again to a slightly weaker keeper. No disrespect to the guy, but he's been well noted in the press for having a pretty difficult season. So I don't know whether or not Majowski is that what he needed, was just that goal there just to settle him into the game, to realise, okay, right, that's all I need to do. I don't need to try too hard to think about where I'm putting it or to try and run by defenders or anything like that. If I just hit a shot on target, I might actually try and get the better of him. So yeah, well done for trying it out, and it paid off, because then that just kind of eased the fans a little bit. I don't think anybody ever thought that they were going to go on and win the game, but the last thing that we wanted was for them to get a goal up and the place to kind of turn. So yeah, very good to get the first goal and set off the night.
Yes, the second wasn't too far behind. Majorski again, there was a little bit in between where Annan are certainly in the game, but it just felt like if we wanted to score, we were just going to go and score.
Yeah.
And we did that. It's a good cross from Curtis, this one, who started the game a little ropey, but again, you're looking at guys like Dowell, Inciala, Rothwell, Aarons, Curtis, Danilo. When did any of them last start a game? You're talking months for most of them. Sometimes I think that's the first start of the season, or at least the second or third for a few of them. So it's going to be a rusty start, but Curtis, good cross here. Majorski, right place. Bit of a tap in. Again, the keeper doesn't cover himself in glory to bring out a very good football cliche there. But decent header. And again, do you think this is what Majorski's needed tonight? This kind of game? I know he gets another goal, which we'll come to a little bit. But do you think he needed a game like this just to kind of score again, just feel that feeling again?
Aye, absolutely. I mean, how many times have you seen it in years gone by where when you're coming into this end of the season and you're just needing players to hit a bit of form, and sometimes all it takes is just one game like today where they get the feeling for scoring the goal and hearing the fans shouting their name. And I think when you get that gives you the bug again. And I did feel sorry for Majorski when he scored the 2 against Kilmarnock, and then he obviously went on and picked up that injury, because it felt that there was a bit of momentum there, and
you derailed his season, didn't it? Just in terms of just getting going and then something like that. Then Chermiti scores, which is great for us, but for your striking option, it's probably not great for him to see Chermiti score in a kind of selfish way.
Yeah, and again, you had said that you probably would have liked to have seen Chermiti come on, but I suppose Danilo's maybe not got that 90 minutes in his tank just now. But to go back to the second goal, I think a lot of credit's got to be given to Finlay Curtis, because there's two ways of looking at it. As the keeper kind of not expecting that ball to come across, and then Majorski's just there to get it, because he doesn't realise that from that angle that Finlay's going to try and dink it over him. But I don't think the keeper's necessarily at fault there, but the defenders need to take the gamble that Finlay Curtis is going to make it, because he's right there inside the 6-yard box, and it's just a tap in. So very well done for Finlay Curtis to go in there and dig it out, because I think even their own, like the Annan players, had thought it was too far gone for anybody to do anything with. And not only did they do something with it, he created a goal. So yes, very well done. And as well, it was good to see that Majorski was in that position to capitalise on it, and trusting Curtis for Majorski to take the gamble that Curtis would have got there and made it.
I have took my hands up my gloves to bring up some comments, so
brave.
Feel privileged there. It was this comment from Mad Pup. Said, "Is it just me, or is Finlay Curtis looking at Mikey Moore's job?" Now that feels like a stretch straight away. But what do you think of Curtis tonight? Because again, he started a bit slow, but he's got an assist. There was 2 or 3 other very good crosses, and for me, I've always thought of Curtis as like a striker who's just not big enough to be a striker yet. In terms of, he's a good finisher, knows where the back of the net is, but all-round game needs a loan, needs a lot of work. But tonight, like I say, he could have had a couple of assists, a lot of good crosses, and he's played a lot of that game at left back, which I don't think he's. You can't judge him at left back. That's a bit unfair, but I thought he was all right overall. Yeah,
great delivery of the ball. He seems to master that, the perfect pace and just precision of where's a dangerous area to pass the ball. It doesn't necessarily always meet someone, and it doesn't. I don't even know if it's intentional to hit a particular player, but he seems to find a dangerous area like that one. I'm not overly sure that he knows that Majorski's at that back post, but he's thinking, if I hit it there, someone should capitalise on it. And exactly. Yeah. So he also had a decent shot on the right-hand side, and which I thought probably could have. I mean, it was a decent strike of the ball. It's just past the post, but he always seems to be one of those players that, rather than beating the defender and then taking him back on again, cutting inside, starting again, he just wants to get the ball into the box, or he wants to have a shot, and it doesn't seem to muck about with it too much, which I quite like. But I imagine that as a stat, person, I was about to say something else there, like yourself, I imagine that probably doesn't come across very well, because it would lead to quite a lot of loss of possession if it doesn't go favourably. But I would much rather that my winger put the ball into the box consistently into dangerous areas, albeit not meeting a target, but knowing then that the strikers had the faith that, Curtis is on the ball, I better get into the box, even if it is a shot, just as a follow-up, because he does seem to get the ball in areas that causes their defence problems.
Yep. All the chat is that he's going on loan at Kilmarnock, and it feels like that's exactly what he needs, like a decent 6 months, first team football, get some goals, get some assists, bulk up a little bit, maybe just get used to like men's football that matters, because I think he's got something. He's going to need football though to get out of him. Took us to half time, and then very quickly after half time we have what was probably the first and last time that I'll say this sentence. It's a Rothwell cross and a Dowell goal with his head. Now, two guys there who I think have all wrote off, and I'm pretty sure will be leaving. This could be the last game, for all we know. What did you make of those two performance-wise? I'm going to ask a very obvious question, but that's what to do. Did you see anything in those two that would make you want to keep them? Or have they got a Rangers future? Or is that the most stupid question you've ever heard?
Rothwell has a lovely
Barnett.
Lovely Barnett. Beautiful haircut that I'm very jealous of. Yep. But he's a great striker of the ball. He seems to have a good pace of pass. I felt early on Dowell and Rothwell were trying to link up very quickly, like one-touch passes and moving, and they seemed to know where each other were supposed to be at that moment in time. But no, I don't want to see them. If we kept Rothwell and he was to stay fit, and we were in a position where he wasn't going to break the bank with wages or anything like that. Sorry, someone's just kicked us out. But if we got to that sort of position, then I'd be happy to keep Rothwell. My problem is that it doesn't seem to know, or no one seems to know what position he's better at. We're hearing stories about, at this club he played on the left wing, and in this club he plays as a 10. You're playing him too deep, and then whenever he gets the ball and goes forward, doesn't ever seem to really do anything with it either. A bit of a journeyman down south, didn't really make any of the clubs he was at a particular home. So I don't know, it just seemed like a bit of an off signing now, but at the time I was excited for it because it seemed to tick all the boxes of someone to come in and steady the midfield.
Yep.
I would love it if his form turned and he did become a decent player. I just don't see it. Dowell needs to go because he's had far too many chances of coming in and out the team, and every opportunity that he's had, it just seems to have kind of fell flat. Obviously, he gets his goal, which I'm sure he'll go on to, but not a great performance. Too quick to turn back, Dowell, in forward positions of the park, which is something that I really hate to see, especially if there is an option to go forward.
Yeah, the thing with Dowell for me is that I think there's technically a good footballer there, and I don't mean he's a good footballer. I mean that he is good technique.
Yeah,
like his passing's nice, quite crisp. He can score. We've seen that a couple of times, but when he's in front of goal, he doesn't shoot. He's not brave, and you can't survive at Rangers if you're not a brave footballer. So I'd very expect those two to go out probably towards the end of the window, maybe when we are offloading them rather than just selling them, if that makes sense. I don't see a big fee for either of them, but get them off the wage book and we will move on. So a couple of subs here. Magoma came off, as did Gassama. Just the two first teamers that played were never going to last the full match. Just again, rotation as we touched on, where we saw Zebedee Lawson, who I think a lot of Rangers fans didn't know pre-game. Again, done all right when he came on. Nothing spectacular, but it's quite an easy debut to make, isn't it? Coming on at 3-0, crowds quite chilled. Yeah, it's a good environment. And this other guy, Rabbi Matondo, I don't know if you've heard of him before. What did you?
They call him the Welsh Dragon, do they not?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
What did you think of Rabbi's performance? We'll start with him because
electrifying. No, we had both said when we were watching the game, like you can tell how the boy gets so many injuries because he just runs at players with such pace, but not always with any sort of precision whatsoever.
Very headless chicken, isn't it?
It's like he either runs and smashes straight into them, or he makes it by them, and I don't think he knows what it is until he's done that, and he ends up running by somebody and they clip him and he gets the penalty. He does it 2 other times prior to that and gets fouls. It just seems as if, like, in a game like that where you've got players with tired legs and they bring on a player who's an absolute beast who can run up and down the wing all day.
Yep.
It was an absolute nightmare for the boy at right back. But fair play to Matondo, because, I mean, he's came in out the cold. He's obviously burst a gut to get some of those fouls and get the penalty decision for him. So, yeah, don't think he really put a foot wrong when he came on the park.
Does he have a future here? Would you, again, I don't see anyone taking him off us money-wise, but as that like late sub in certain games, certain moments, can he do anything? Or am I again asking a question that is absolutely obvious?
I think the question you need to ask it, I think the person you need to ask it to is him, because I think everybody at one point would have been quite excited about the prospect of him becoming a decent player and pushing on and making that position his own. But every time he got the opportunity, he bottled it. And that's, I mean, if that's in himself to want it and want more. But
the guys that were sitting beside us, the four lads, fan media guys, they made the joke about how he'll probably get injured now that the window's sort of coming to a close, and you kind of wouldn't be surprised at that, would you? It seems to be what happens. I don't think that's a coincidence, but he did win the penalty that you mentioned. Was that a penalty for you, or was it a bit of clever wing play? I'm not going to say diving, but was it clever wing play?
I don't think there's too much difference between that and the Gassama one as last for against Aberdeen. As he makes contact with the player and the player falls down. I mean, if the contact's there, I don't think he goes looking for the contact. I think.
Really?
Well, I think
again, I'm not saying he's diving, but I think he's putting the ball and just going, right, hit me. Just experience, maybe, just a clever play. Yeah.
I don't.
Not against it. Yeah.
I don't think that running at a player and skipping by him with the thing of take me down and I'm going through and the boy takes him down. I don't think that's. I think that's exactly what his aim is. I don't think he's not looking for a penalty. Ultimately, he's given the defender the choice, and the defender makes the wrong choice. Well, it could have been the right choice if the penalty gets missed, I suppose. But
yeah.
No, I don't think he goes looking for it. I don't think he extends the leg hoping to get hit. I think he runs by him with the intention of getting the ball in, and the boy clips him and he falls. I'm pretty bog standard, to be honest.
Didn't realise you were such a Matondo defender, but there we are. So my obviously scored the penalty, got his hat trick. Man of the match in the stadium. Would you agree with that one? Obviously, he scored a hat trick, I guess. But
yeah, nobody really shone this. Nobody really cared. Nobody was setting the world alight tonight. It was a very mundane game, but when a player goes out and scores 3 goals, having not really been playing particularly well so far, it would feel wrong not to give it to him. So yeah, give it to me, Oski.
Totally. I was a bit worried at this point because this 10-15 minutes to go, 4-0 up. I think the Annan boys were knackered. Every time the ball goes out, they're like down, crouched over, trying to get their breath back. But some of them did just start leaving a foot in, making a kind of not bad, terrible tackles at any point, but just tired, maybe roughing them up. I think their number 5, Tommy Muir, was on a bit of a mission to try and injure someone at one point, right enough. But we saw Mikey Moore come on, and again, bit of paranoia, thinking, please nobody get injured, but especially Mikey Moore, don't get injured. But it's getting a bit rough out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like watching a school team where you've got that one boy who's the pro youth player and everybody's jealous of him. Like everybody was trying to snap him at every chance they got, and he was just skipping by them until eventually he get clattered and I think he get kneed in the head as part of that. Yeah. I don't know whether or not they took satisfaction from that, but no, I think it's quite nice to see when a player like Mikey Moore, when they're all kind of grown men who are obviously wanting to get stuck in, and he's not really.
Didn't shy away from it.
Nah, he wants it. He's just like, give it to me. I'll take them on. So yeah, shows a bit of his character as well. But no, I don't think it's. I think, to be fair, I had thought that it was going to be more like that early on. So I was quite happy to see that the players kind of stuck at their professionalism right up until quite close to the end. And I don't want to judge their professionalism. It could have just been a bit of fatigue and that they were just going
good ball chasing anymore.
I'm going to clatter this guy.
Yeah.
But there was a few times where I felt that they were going to probably a bit heavy-footed in with some of the challenges. But again, fair challenges. So if they're going to play at a club like Rangers and we're going to play against some of the clubs lower down the leagues, that's what you've got to deal with. That's what you've got to expect. So welcome to Rangers for some of them. Like Matondo.
One of those fouls did lead to a free kick, and I'm just going to ask you, Asgard put that ball down, and what did I say to you before he even kicked that ball?
Top corner.
I know my stuff. Yes, an unbelievable goal. Again, Annan aren't the best team. It's not the best goalkeeper in the world, but put 4 goalies in there. He wasn't saving that. Very reminiscent for me of the Tavernier goal at Dundee United. Was that league winning season years ago? Anyway, top corner, good 30 yards on it. It's just a special moment to round off the night, I thought.
Yeah, I think it would be really harsh to say anything less than that. You could say, oh, well, he scored that against Annan or whatever.
Yeah.
If you hit a ball that well into that area of the goal, I don't think there's many keepers that would have got that. It was an excellent strike. My only criticism would be, does he do that in a game that's not 4-0 up at home against Annan?
Well, no, because Tav had it.
Yeah, but does he have the bottle to actually go up there?
Yep.
Because how many times have we seen his performances kind of crumble when the pressure was on? I think maybe that is it. Like, that's what we could get if we had Asgard playing against teams where it didn't really matter and there wasn't the pressure. But like we know, every single game at Ibrox, especially in the league, in the early stages of the Europa League before we get battered out, or pretty much battered out, they all meant something. So when that was on, there was financial pressure probably from the board that was coming down to the manager. Now we've got fan pressure from the league, and that we know that there's a title that could potentially be won. So yeah, I thought it was an excellent strike. I thought he did really well to get it up and down. Excellent height on the ball for it just to dip at that last second. Yeah, very, very well taken. However, again, not to be too critical, but I just don't think he does that.
Yourself, can you?
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, I get it. And that's 4 goals in 5 now. So at very least, and what we've said for months here is that players had to show us something. He is showing us something. Again, I'm not just talking about the goal there, but a good run of goals and an assist in there as well. So that's something. One player I've not really touched on is Danilo. It's just not there. There's nothing. Again, this is against one of the worst teams we'll play all season. Didn't have much of an effect. Didn't have anything in front of goal that I can really remember. A few loose passes. They had nice touch in there as well, obviously, but he's one I'd be really keen to move on right now.
Yeah, he's just a nice player. I don't think nice players are suited to this league. I think he's not particularly quick. He's not particularly strong.
Particularly quick is that's a very kind way of saying he is a snail.
Yeah, but I think he's got a good reading of the game. He's also not. He's probably arguably in the box one of the best finishers that we've got at the club, but he just doesn't ever get there enough to actually showcase that. So it shows up in some real moments of magic, and you can tell that technically he's a wonderful footballer, but I think he needs to go and play in the sun somewhere where there's a lot less, not pressure, but like there's a lot less like players right up against you, pressing you.
Yeah, he's one of those that just doesn't suit Scottish football at all.
Not
the
at
kind
all.
of rough and tumble, the aggression, the pace. And I'm not saying that Scottish football's blessed with fast footballers, but you're closed down, you've not got time in the ball. The thing that Asgard's had to learn recently is you don't just get all the time in the world to stand on the ball and look for something. You have to be decisive. And again, I don't know if that injury's had a massive effect on Danilo, obviously, but he just can't get around the pitch anymore, can't arrive in the box anymore. And Sorry, guys. Apparently, Wi-Fi might have turned off there, but we are back. We're still here, still in the freezing cold. As you're saying about Danilo's contract till 2028, carry on that fun conversation.
Yeah, 2028. So, I mean, I think people had thought, oh, well, you know, maybe it will just end and he might get a move elsewhere on a cheaper deal or something like that. But the problem is who's going to buy a player with the injury history that he had when he first came here and give us back the money that we put in for him? And looking at his numbers, I don't see how that happens. Normally, he can fall back and say, "Oh well, he's got a decent international career or something like that to fall back on." He's just not got it. So I don't know. I would like to see him leave, and I think reading between the lines, it might be the case that if Danilo were to go, that would then facilitate the move for another striker.
Yep.
And in that sense, I would definitely want Danilo to go so that I could get another striker in to see what other options that we had.
Yes, I don't think you're the only one. We'll leave it there just until we get cut off again. So thanks, Ibrox Wi-Fi, for that one. But we'll be back tomorrow night. No, Sunday night. What day is it? It's Friday. So yes, Sunday night we'll be back. JB, Tommy and Hef, your sort of usual Sunday night lineup at this point. Look back at this game, but probably a little more chat about transfers, what we maybe still need, and then a look ahead to the midweek game next week. So thanks everyone for joining us. We are freezing, so we are going to get out of here. But very good night for Rangers again. Through in the cup, that's all we can ask, especially after what happened last year. So thanks to Hef for joining me there, and we'll see you guys next time. Cheers.